Good morning. Oh, wait, I need to move Will off. Maybe I move him down a little bit. Okay, that should be good. I think he's good being placed right there. I don't think he's blocking anything. After party for a funeral? Not really. Hey, did the widget update? Okay, yeah. Okay, now it's saying that we're reading the Memoirs of Sherlock. Okay, good. Awesome. Alright, so last stream we finished up the Valley of Fear. Today we'll be starting the Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 notes. So there's about 11 of these short stories. I'm not sure how long each one will take, like how long they are. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8, 9, 10, 11. So this first one is like 11 pages. So if we could get away with like maybe 2 per stream, cool. If not, maybe 3. Okay, let's see. Alright, so this first one we will be reading is called Silver Blaze. Is my marker not working? That's the command right marker. Oh, sure, but it doesn't want to work today. Let me try actually in Twitch. Oh, okay. It doesn't show in my OBS, but I see it right here on Twitch. Okay, got you. Uh-oh, I think I accidentally pressed a button. I don't know what I did. Okay, so today we'll be reading the Silver Blaze for the Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. The links are already in the chats for both chats. They're in the pinned comments if you want to read along with it and stuff like that. So, I am afraid, Watson, that I shall have to go, said Holmes, as we sat down together to our breakfast one morning. Go? Where to? To Dartmoor, to King's. Peland. I was not surprised. Indeed, my only wonder was that he had not already been mixed up in this extraordinary case, which is the one topic of conversation through the length and breadth of England. For a whole day, my companion had rambled about the room, with his chin upon his chest and his brows knitted, charging and recharging his pipe with the strongest black tobacco, and absolutely deaf to any of my questions or remarks. Fresh editions of every paper had been set up by our news agent, only to be glanced over and tossed down into a corner. Yet silent as he was, I knew perfectly well what it was over which he was brooding. There was but one problem before the public which could challenge his powers of analysis, and that was the single disappearance of the favorite for the Wessex Cup and the tragic murder of its trainer. When, therefore, he suddenly announced his intention of setting out for the scene of the drama, it was only what I had both expected and hoped for. I should be most happy to go down with you, if I should not be in the way, said I. My dear Watson, you would confer a great favor upon me by coming, and I think that your time will not be misspent. For there are points about the case which promise to make it an absolutely unique one. We have, I think, just time to catch our train at Paddington, and I will go further into the matter upon our journey. You would oblige me by bringing with you your very excellent field glass. And so it happened that an hour or so later, I found myself in the corner of a first-class carriage flying along en route for Exeter, while Sherlock Holmes, with his sharp, eager face framed in his ear-flap traveling cap, dipped rapidly into the bundle of fresh papers which he had procured at Paddington. We had left reading far behind us before he trusted the last one of them under the seat and offered me his cigar case. "We're going well," said he, looking out the window and glancing at his watch. "Our rate at present is 53.5 miles an hour. Hello. "I have not observed the quarter-mile posts," said I. "Nor have I, but the telegraph posts upon this line are 60 yards apart, and the calculation is a simple one. I presume that you have looked into this matter of the murder of John Stracker and the disappearance of the Silver Blaze." "I have seen what the Telegraph and the Chronicles have to say. It is one of those cases where the art of the reasoner should be used rather for the shift of details than for the acquiring of fresh evidence. The tragedy has been so uncommon, so complete, and of such personal importance to so many people that we are suffering from a plethora of surmise, conjecture, and hypothesis. The difficulty is to detach the framework of fact, of absolute, undeniable fact, from the establishments of theorists and reporters. Then, having established ourselves upon this sound basis, it is our duty to see what inferences may be drawn, and what are the special points upon which the whole mystery turns. On Tuesday evening, I received telegrams from both Colonel Ross, the owner of the horse, and from Inspector Gregory, who is looking after the case, inviting my cooperation. Tuesday evening, I exclaimed. And this is Thursday morning. Why didn't you go down yesterday? Because I made a blunder, my dear Watson, which is, I am afraid, a more common occurrence than anyone would think, who only knew me through your memories. The fact is that I could not believe it possible that the most remarkable horse in England could long remain concealed, especially in so sparsely inhabited a place as the north of Dartmoor. From hour to hour yesterday, I expected to hear that he had been found, and that his abductor was the murderer of John Straker. When, however, another morning had come, I found that beyond the arrest of young Fitzroy Simpson, nothing has been done. I felt that it was time for me to take action, yet in some ways I feel that yesterday has not been wasted. You have formed a theory then? At least I have got a grip of the essential facts of the case. I shall enumerate them to you. For nothing clears up a case so much as stating it to another person. And I can hardly expect your cooperation if I do not show you the position from which we start. Hello, Marantz, how are you? Good morning. I lay back against the cushions, puffing at my cigar, while Holmes, leaning forward with his long, thin forefinger, checking off the points upon the palm of his left hand, giving me a sketch of the events which had led to our journey. Silver Blaze, said he, is from the Assumly stock and holds as brilliant a record as his famous ancestor. He is now in his 5th year and has brought in turn each of the prizes of the turf to just farming. Oh, Halloween. They have Halloween candy in World of Warcraft. Has brought him in turn each of the prizes of the turf to Colonel Ross, his fortunate owner. Up to the time of the catastrophe, he was the first favorite for the Wessex Cup, the betting being 3-1 on him. He has always, however, been a prime favorite with the racing public, and has never yet disappointed them, so that even at those odds, enormous sums of money has been laid upon him. It is obvious, therefore, that there were many people who had the strongest interest in preventing Silver Blaze from being there at the fall of the flag next Tuesday. The fact was, of course, appreciated at King's Thailand, where the Colonel's training stable is situated. Every precaution was taken to guard the favorite. The trainer, John Straker, is a retired jockey who rode in Colonel Ross' colors before he became too heavy for the weighing chair. He has served the Colonel for 5 years as jockey and for 7 as trainer, and has always shown himself to be a zealous and honest servant. Under him were 3 lads, for the establishment was a small one, containing only 4 horses in all. One of these lads sat up each night in the stable, while the others slept in the loft. All 3 bore excellent characters. John Straker, who is a married man, lived in a small villa about 200 yards from the stables. He has no children, keeps one maidservant, and is comfortably off. The country road is very lonely, but about half a mile to the north, there is a small cluster of villas, which have been built by a Tavistock contractor for the use of invalids and others who may wish to enjoy the pure Durmar air. Tavistock itself lies 2 miles to the west, while across the moor, also about 2 miles distant, is the largest trading establishment of Mapleton, which belongs to Lord Backwater and is managed by Silas Brown. In every other direction to moor is a complete wilderness inhabited only by a few roaming gypsies. Such was the general situation last Monday night when the catastrophe occurred. On that evening, the horses had been exercised and watered as usual, and the stables were locked up at 9 o'clock. Two of the lads walked up to the trainer's house, where they had a supper in the kitchen, while the third, Ned Hunter, remained on guard. At a few minutes after 9, the maid, Edith Baxter, carried down to the stables his supper, which consisted of a dish of curried mutton. She took no liquid, as there was a water tap in the stables, and it was the rule that the lad on duty should drink nothing else. The maid carried a lantern with her, as it was very dark, and the path ran across the open moor. Edith Baxter was within 30 yards of the stables when a man appeared out of the darkness and called to her to stop. As she stepped into the circle of yellow light thrown by the lantern, she saw that he was a person of gentlemanly bearing, dressed in a gray suit of tweed, with a cloth cap. He wore gaiters and carried a heavy stick with a knob to it. She was most impressed, however, by the extreme pallor of his face and by the nervousness of his manner. His age, she thought, would be rather over 30 than under it. "Can you tell me where I am?" he asked. "I had almost made up my mind to sleep on the moor when I saw the light of your lantern." "You are close to the King's Highlands training stables," said she. "Oh, indeed, what a stroke of luck," he cried. "I understand that the stable boy sleeps there alone every night?" "Perhaps that is his supper which you are carrying to him. I am sure that you would not be proud to earn the price of a new dress, would you?" He took a piece of white paper folded up out of his waistcoat pocket. "See that the boy has this tonight, and you shall have the prettiest frock that money can buy." She was frightened by the earnestness of his manner, and ran past him to the window through which she was accustomed to laying the meals. It was already open, and Hunter was seated at the small table inside. She had begun to tell him of what had happened when the stranger came up again. "Good evening," said he, looking through the window. "I wanted to have a word with you." The girl had sworn that, as he spoke, she noticed the corner of the little paper packet protruding from his closed hand. "What business have you here?" asked the lad. "It's business that may put something into your pocket," said the other. "Your 2 horses, and for the breakfast cup, a silver blaze, and a Bayard. Let me have the straight tip, and you won't be a loser. Is it a fact that at the weight, Bayard would give the other 100 yards and 5 furlongs, and that the stable have put their money on him?" "So you're one of those damn tats," cried the lad. "I'll show you how we serve them in King's Highland." He sprang up and rushed across the stable to unloose the dog. The girl fled away to the house, but as she ran, she looked back and saw that the stranger was leaning through the window. A minute later, however, when the hunter rushed out with the hound, he was gone. And though he ran all around the buildings, he failed to find any trace of him. That is so suspicious. One moment, I asked. Did the stable boy, when he ran out with the dog, leave the door unlocked behind him? Excellent, Watson, excellent, murmured my companion. The importance of the point struck me so forcibly that I sent a special wire to Dartmoor yesterday to clear the matter up. The boy locked the door before he left it. The window, I may add, was not large enough for a man to get through. Hunter waited until his fellow grooms had returned when he sent a message to the trainer and told him what had occurred. Straker was excited at hearing the account, although he does not seem to have quite realized its true significance. It left him, however, vaguely uneasy, and Miss Straker, waking at 1 in the morning, found that he was dressing. In reply to her inquiries, he said that he could not sleep on account of his anxiety about the horses, and that he intended to walk down to the stables to see that all was well. She begged him to remain at home, as she could hear the rain pattering against the window. But in spite of her entreaties, he pulled on his large mackintosh and left the house. Miss Straker awoke at 7 in the morning to find that her husband had not yet returned. She dressed her house hastily, called the maid, and set off for the stables. The door was open inside. Huddled together upon a chair, Hunter was sunk in a state of absolute stupor. The favorite stall was empty, and there were no sign of his trainer. The two lads who slept in the calf-cutting loft above the harness room was quickly aroused. They had heard nothing during the night, for they are both sound sleepers. Hunter was obviously under the influence of some powerful drug, and as no sense could be got out of him, he was left to sleep it off, while the two lads and the two women ran out in search of the absentees. They still had hopes that the trainer had, for some reason, taken out the horse for early exercise, but on ascending the knoll near the house, from which all the neighboring moors were visible, they not only could see no sign of the missing favorite, but they perceived something which warned them that they were in the presence of a tragedy. About a quarter of a mile from the stables, John Straker's overcoat was flapping from a furze bush. Immediately beyond there was a bowl-shaped depression in the moor, and at the bottom of this was found the dead body of the unfortunate trainer. His head had been shattered by a savage blow from some heavy weapon, and he was wounded on the thigh, where there was a long, clean cut, inflicted evidently by some very sharp instrument. Ooh. It was clear, however, that Straker had defended himself vigorously against his assailants, for in his right hand he held a small knife which was clawed with blood up to the handle, which in his left he clasped a red and black silk cravat, which was recognized by the maid as having been worn on the preceding evening by the stranger who had visited the stables. Hunter, on receiving from his stupor, was also quite positive as to the ownership of that. I just want to make sure I'm saying this right. cravat. Okay, I was saying it wrong. So cravat. The ownership of the cravat. He was equally certain that the same stranger had, while standing at the window, drugged his curried mutton, and so deprived the stables of their watchman. As to the missing horse, there were abundant proof in the mud which lay at the bottom of the fatal hollow that he had been there at the time of the struggle. But from the morning he has disappeared, and although a large reward has been offered and all the gypsies of Dartmoor are on the alert, no news has come of him. Finally, an analysis has shown that the remains of his supper left by the stable lad contain an appreciable quantity of powdered opium, while the people of the house partake of the same dish on the same night without any ill effect. Those are the main facts of the case, stripped of all surmise, and stated as boldly as possible. I shall now recapitulate what the police have done in the matter. That's my hand starting to fall asleep. Inspector Gregory, to whom the case has been committed, an extremely competent officer, were he but gifted with the imagination, he might rise to great heights in his profession. On his arrival, he promptly found and arrested the man upon whom suspicion naturally rested. There was little difficulty in finding him, for he inhabited one of those villas which I have mentioned. His name was Fitzroy Simpson. He was a man of excellent birth and education, who had squandered a fortune upon the turf, and who lived now by doing a little quiet and genteel book making in the sporting clubs of London. An examination of his betting book shows that bets to the amount of £5,000 has been registered by him against the favorite. On being arrested, he volunteered the statement that he had come down to Dartmoor in the hopes of getting some information about the King's Pyland's horse, and also about Desborough. Desborough, the second favorite, which was in charge of the last Brown at the Mapleton stable. He did not attempt to deny that he had acted as described upon the evening before, but declared that he had no sinister designs. It had simply wished to obtain first-hand information. When confronted with his cravat, he turned very pale and was utterly unable to account for its presence in the hand of the murdered man. His wet clothing showed that he had been out in the storm of the night before, and his stick, which was a panning laurel weighed with lead, was just such a weapon as might. But repeated blows have inflicted the terrible injuries to which a trainer has succumbed. On the other hand, there was no wound upon this person, while the state of Striker's knife would show that one at least of his assailants must bear his mark upon him. There you have it all in a nutshell, Watson, and if you can give me any light, I shall be infinitely obliged to you. That's quite a case. I had listened with greatest interest to the statement which Holmes, with characteristic clearness, had laid before me. Though most of the facts were familiar to me, I had not sufficiently appreciated their relative importance, nor their connection to each other. Is it not possible, I suggested, that the assist wound upon Stryker may have been caused by his own knife? And the convulsive struggle which followed any brain injury? It is more than possible. It is probable, said Holmes. And that case one of the main points in favor of the accused disappears. And yet, said I, even now I fail to understand what the theory of the police can be. I am afraid that whatever theory we state has very grave objections to it, returned my companion. The police imagine, I take it, that Fitzroy Simpson, having drugged the lad and having in some way obtained a duplicate key, opened the stable door and took out the horse, with the intention apparently of kidnapping him altogether. His bridle is missing, so that Simpson must have put his on. Then, having left the door open behind him, he was leading the horse away over the moor when he was either met or overtaken by the trainer, a row naturally insured. Simpson beat out the trainer's brains with his heavy stick without receiving any injury from the small knife which Stryker used in self-defense. And then the thief either had the horse on to some secret hiding place, or else it may have bolted during the struggle and be now wandering out on the moor. That is the case as it appears to the police. And improbable as it is, all other explanations are more improbable still. However, I shall very quickly test the matter when I am once upon the spot, and until then, I cannot really see how we can get much farther than our present position. I don't think this person killed him. I feel like there might be another person involved. Because, like, even then, it's like... They say his head was shattered, but, like, could one of those canes really do that much damage to the head? And then the fact he has a cut on his leg? That doesn't really make sense. It was evening before we reached the little town, Tavistock, which lies like the boss of a shield in the middle of the huge circle of Dartmoor. Two gentlemen were awaiting us in the station. The one, a tall, fair man with a lion-like hair and beard, and curiously penetrating light blue eyes. That's such a description. The other, a small, alert person, very neat and dapper, in a frock coat and gaiters, with trim little side whiskers and an eyeglass. The latter was Colonel Ross. the well-known sportsman. The other, Inspector Gregory, a man who was rapidly making his name in the English detective service. I am delighted that you have come down, Mr. Holmes, said the colonel. The inspector here has done all that that could possibly be suggested, but I wish to leave no stone unturned, and trying to avenge poor Striker, and in recovering my horse. Have there been any fresh developments, asked Holmes? I am sorry to say that we have made very little progress, said the inspector. We have an open carriage outside, and as we no doubt like to see the place before the light fails. We might talk it over as we drive. A minute later, we were all seated in a comfortable landau, and were rattling through the quaint old Devonshire city. Inspector Gregory was full of his case and poured out a stream of remarks, while Holmes threw in an occasional question or interjection. Colonel Ross leaned back with his arms folded and his hat tilted over his eyes, while I listened with interest to the dialogue of the two detectives. Gregory was formulating his theory, which was almost exactly what Holmes had foretold in the train. The net is drawn pretty close round Fitzroy Simpson, he remarked, and I believe myself that he is our man. At the same time, I recognize that the evidence is purely circumstantial, and that some new development may upset it. How about Striker's knife? We have quite come to the conclusion that he had wounded himself in his fall. My friend Dr. Watson made that suggestion to me as we came down. If so, it would tell against this man Simpson. Undoubtedly, he has neither a knife nor any sign of a wound. The evidence against him is certainly very strong. He had a great interest in the disappearance of the favorite. The colonel from KFC. He lies under suspicion of having poisoned the stable boy. He was undoubtedly out in the storm. He was armed with a heavy stick, and his cravat was found in the dead man's hand. I really think we have enough to go before a jury. Holmes shook his head. A clever counsel would tear it all to rags, said he. Why should he take the horse out of the stable? If he wished to injure it, why could he not do it there? Has the duplicate key been found in his possession? What chemist sold him the powdered opium? Above all, where could he, a stranger to the district, hide a horse, and such a horse as this? What is his own explanation as to the paper which he wished the maid to give to the stable boy? He says that it was a 10-pound note. One was found in his purse. But your other difficulties are not so formidable as they seem. He is not a stranger to the district. He has twice the lounge at Tavistock in the summer. The opium was probably brought from London. The key, having served its purpose, will be hurled away. The horse may be at the bottom of one of those pits, or old mines upon the moor. What does he say about the cravat? He acknowledges that it is his, and declares that he had lost it, but a new element has been introduced into the case, which may account for his leading the horse from the stable. Holmes pricked up his ears. We have found traces which show that a party of gypsies encamped on Monday night within a mile of the spot where the murder took place. On Tuesday, they were gone. Now, presuming that there was some understanding between Simpson and these gypsies, might he not have been leading the horse to them when he was overtaken? And may they not have him now? It is certainly possible. The moor is being scoured for these gypsies. I have also examined every stable and outhouse in Tavistock, and for a radius of 10 miles. There is another training stable quite close, I understand. Yes, and that is a factor which we must certainly not neglect. As this borough their horse, was second in the betting. They had an interest in the disappearance of the favorite. Silas Brown, the trainer, is known to have had large bets upon the event, and he was no friend to poor Striker. We have, however, examined the stables, and there is nothing to connect him with the affair. Okay. And nothing to connect this man, Simpson, with the interests of the Mapleton stables. Nothing at all. Holmes leaned back in the carriage, and the conversation ceased. A few minutes later, our driver pulled up at a neat little red brick villa with overhanging eaves which stood by the road. Some distance off across a paddock lay a long, gray, tilted out building. In every other direction, the low curves of the moor, bronze-colored from the fading ferns, stretched away to the skyline, broken only by the steeples of Tavistock, and by a cluster of houses away. To the westward, which marked Mapleton stables, we all sprung out with the expectation of Holmes, who continued to lean back with his eyes fixed upon the sky in front of him, entirely absorbed in his own thoughts. It was only when I touched his arm that he rose himself with a violent start and stepped out of the carriage. "Excuse me," said he, turning to Colonel Ross, who had looked at him in some surprise. I was daydreaming. There was a gleam in his eyes and a suppressed excitement in his manner, which convinced me, used as I was to his ways, that his hand was upon a case, though I could not imagine where he had found it. "Perhaps you would prefer at once to go on to the scene of the crime, Mr. Holmes?" said Gregory. "I think that I would prefer to stay here a little and go into one or two questions of details. Striker was brought back here, I presume?" "Yes, he lies upstairs. The inquest is tomorrow." "He has been in your service for some years, Colonel Ross? I have always found him an excellent servant." "I presume that you made an inventory of what he had in his pockets at the time of his death, Inspector?" "I have the things themselves in the sitting room, if you would care to see them." "I should be very glad." We all filed into the front room and sat around the central table, while the inspector unlocked the square tin box and laid a small heap of things before us. There was a box of Vestas, 2 inches of tallow candle, an ADP, a beer root pipe, a pouch of seal skin with half an ounce of long-cut Cavendish, a silver watch with a golden chain, 5 sovereigns in gold and aluminum pencil case, a few papers, and an ivory handle knife with a very delicate and flexible blade marked Weiss & Co. London. That was a mouthful. "This is a very singular knife," said Holmes, lifting it up and examining it momentarily. "I presume, as I see bloodstains upon it, that it is the one which was found in the dead man's grasp. Watson, this knife is surely in your lane. In your line. Yeah, it's here in your line." "It is what we call a cataract knife." "Yeah, cataract. What's a cataract knife?" Oh, those are like one of those surgical knives. Got you. I just looked it up. It's one of those, like, it looks like, according to the picture, it's, one of those thin surgical knives, and where, like, it has a very thin handle and then a very flat tip, where the knife is. So, yeah. That's a weird weapon to have if you're being attacked, though. I thought it was like a normal, a normal hunting knife or something like that. It's what we called a cataract knife, said I. I thought so. A very delicate blade devised for very delicate work. A strange thing for a man to carry with him upon a rough expedition, especially as it would not shut in his pocket. The tip was guarded by a dish of cork, which we found beside his body. And said the inspector, his wife tells us that the knife had lain upon the dressing table, and that he had picked it up as he left the room. It was a poor weapon, perhaps the best that he could lay his hands on at the moment. Very possible. How about these papers? The three of them are That is true. Three of these are receipted hay dealers' accounts. One of them is a letter of instructions from Colonel Ross. This other is a milliner's account for £37.15 made out by Madame Legier of Bound Street to William Derbyshire. Miss Stryker tells us that Derbyshire was a friend of her husband's, and that occasionally his letters were addressed here. Madame Derbyshire had somewhat expensive tastes, remarked Holmes, glancing down the account. 22 guineas is rather heavy for a single costume. However, there appears to be nothing more to learn, and we may now go down to the scene of the crime. As we emerged from the sitting room, a woman who had been waiting in the passage took a step forward and laid her hand upon the inspector's sleeve. Her face was haggard and thin and eager, stamped with the print of a recent terror. "Have you got them? Have you found them?" she panted. "Miss Stryker, but Mr. Holmes here has come from London to help us, and we shall do all that is possible." "Sure, I met you in Plymouth at a garden party a little time ago, Miss Stryker," said Holmes. "No, sir, you are mistaken." "Dear me, I could have sworn to it. You wore a costume of dove-colored silk, with ostrich feather trimmings. I never had such a dresser," answered the lady. "Ah, that quite settles it," said Holmes. With an apology, he followed the inspector outside. A short walk across the moor took us to the hollow in which the body had been found. At the brink of it was the frizzy brush upon which the coat had been hung. "There was no wind that night, I understand," said Holmes. "None, but very heavy rain. In that case, the overcoat was not blown against the furze bush, but placed there." "Yes, it was laid across the bush." You fill me with interest. I perceive that the ground has been trampled up a good deal. No doubt many feet have been here since Monday night. A piece of mattering has been laid here at the side, and we have all stood upon that. Excellent. In this bag I have one of the boots which Stryker wore, one of Fitzroy Simpson's shoes, and a cast shoe horse of silver blaze. My dear Inspector, you surpassed yourself. Holmes took the bag, and descending into the hollow, he pushed the man into a more central position. Then stretching himself upon his face and leaning his chin upon his hands, he made a careful study of the trampled mud in front of them. "Hello," said he suddenly. "What's this?" It was a wax vesta half buried, which was so coated with mud that it looked at first like a little chip of wood. "I cannot think how I came to overlook it," said the inspector with an expression of annoyance. "It was invisible, buried in the mud. I only saw it because I was looking for it." "What? You expected to find it?" "I thought it not unlikely." He took the boots from the bag and compared the impressions of each of them with marks upon the ground. Then he clambered up to the rim of the hollow and crawled about among the fawns and bushes. "I'm afraid that there are no more tracks," said the inspector. "I examined the ground very carefully for 100 yards in each direction." "Indeed," said Holmes, rising. "I should not have the impertinence to do it again after what you say, but I should like to take a little walk over the moor before it grows dark, that I may know my grounds tomorrow, and I think that I shall put this horseshoe into my pocket for luck." Corporals had shown some signs of impatience at my companion's quiet and systematic method of work. He glanced at his watch. "I wish you would come back with me, Inspector," said he. "There are several points on which I should like your advice, and especially as rather we do not owe it to the public to remove our horse's name from the entries for the cup." Yeah, probably. "Certainly not," cried Holmes with decision. I should let the name stand. I know about. "I am very glad to have had your opinion, sir," said he. "You will find us at poor Stryker's house when you have finished your walk, and we can drive together into Tavistock." He turned back with the inspector while Holmes and I walked slowly across the moor. The sun was beginning to sink. Behind the stables of Mapleton and the long, sloping plain in front of us was tinged with gold, deepening into rich, ruddy browns, where the faded fern and brambles caught the evening light. But the glories of the landscape were all wasted upon my companion, who was sunk in the deepest thought. "It's this way, Watson," said he at last. We may leave the question of who killed John Stryker for the instance, and confine ourselves to finding out what has become of the horse. Now, suppose that he broke away during or after the tragedy, where could he have gone to? The horse is a very gregarious creature. If left to himself, his instincts would have been either to return to King's Pyland or over to Mapleton. Why would he run wild upon the moor? He would surely have seen by now. And why should gypsies kidnap him? These people always clear out when they hear of trouble, for they do not wish to be pestered by the police. They could not hope to sell such a horse. They would run a great risk and gain nothing by taking him. Surely that is clear. Where is he then? I have already said that he must have gone to King's Pyland or to Mapleton. He is not at King's Pyland. Therefore, he was at Mapleton. Let us take that as a working hypothesis and see what it leads us to. This part of the moor, as the inspector remarked, is very hard and dry, but it follows away towards Mapleton, and you can see from where that there is a long hollow out yonder, which must have been very wet on Monday night. If our supposition is correct, then the horse must have crossed that, and there is the point where he would look. Is the point where we should look for his tracks. We had been walking briskly during the conversation, and a very few more minutes brought us to the hollow in question. At Holmes' request, I walked down the bank to the right and he to the left, but I had not taken 50 paces before I heard him give a shout and saw him waving his hand to me. The track of a horse was plainly outlined in the soft earth in front of him, and the shoe which he took from his pocket exactly fitted the impression. Oh, we found the horse tracks. See the value of imagination, said Holmes. It is the one quality which Gregory lacks. We imagined what might have happened, acted upon the supposition, and found ourselves justified. Let us proceed. We crossed the marshy bottom and passed over a quarter of a mile of dry, hard turf. Again the ground sloped, and again we came on the tracks. Then we lost them for half a mile, but only to pick them up once more quite close to Mapleton. It was Holmes who saw them first, and he stood pointing with a look of triumph upon his face. A man's track was visible beside the horse's. The horse was alone before, I cried. Quite so. It was alone before. Hello, what is this? The double track turned sharp off and took the direction of Kane's Pyland. Holmes whistled, and we both followed along after it. His eyes were on the trail, but I happened to look a little to one side and saw to my surprise the same tracks coming back again in the opposite direction. One for you, Watson, said Holmes when I pointed it out. You have saved us a long walk, which would have brought us back on our own traces. Let us follow the return track. We had not to go far. It ended at the paving of asphalt, which led up to the gates of the Mapleton stables. As we approached, a groom ran out from them. We don't want any loiterers about here, said he. Shadow! Thank you so much for the raid. Welcome in, everyone. Right now we are currently reading the Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. We don't want any loiterers about here, said he. I only wish to ask a question, said Holmes, with his finger and thumb to waistcoat pocket. Should I be too early to see your master, Mrs. Silas Brown, if I were to call at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning? Bless you, sir. If anyone is about, he will be, for he is always the first stirring. But here he is, sir, to answer your questions for himself. No, sir, no. It is as much as my place. It's worth to let him see me, touch your money. Afterwards, if you like. Sherlock Holmes placed the half-crown, which he had drawn from his pocket. A fierce-looking elderly man strode out from the gate with a hunting crop swing in his hand. What's this, Dawson? He cried. No gossiping. Go about your business. And you, what the devil do you want here? 10 minutes talk with you, my good sir, said Holmes in the sweetest of voices. I've no time to talk to every about. We want no strangers here. Be off, or you may find a dog at your heels. Holmes leaned forward and whispered something in the trainer's ear. He started violently and flushed to the temples. "It's a lie," he shouted. "An infernal lie." "Very good. Shall we argue about it here in the public or talk it over in your parlor?" "Oh, come in if you wish to." Holmes smiled. "I shall not keep you more than a few moments, Watson," said he. "Now, Mr. Brown, I am quite at your disposal." It was 20 minutes, and the reds had all faded into grays before Holmes and the trainer reappeared. Never have I seen such a change as had been brought about in Silas Brown in that short time. His face was ashy pale. Beads of perspiration shone upon his brow, and his hand shaking until the hunting crop wagged like a branch in the winds. His bullying, overbearing manner was all gone too. And his cringing along at my companion's side like a dog with its master. Oh my God, what happened? "Instructions will be done. It shall all be done," said he. "There must be no mistake," said Holmes, looking round at him. The other winced as he read the madness in his eyes. "Oh no, there shall be no mistake. It shall be there. Should I change your first or not?" Holmes thought a little and then burst out laughing. "No, don't," said he. "I shall write to you about it. No tricks now, or... Oh, you can trust me. You can trust me." "Yes, I think I can." "Well, you shall hear from me tomorrow." He turned upon his heel, disregarding the trembling hand which the other held out to him, and we set off for King's Pyland. A more perfect compound of the bully, coward, and sneak than Master Silas Brown I have seldom met with, remarked Holmes, as we trudged along together. "He has the horse, then?" He tried to bluster out of it, but I described to him so exactly what his actions had been upon that morning, that he is convinced that I was watching him. Of course, you observed the particular square toe in the impression, and that his own boots exactly correspond to them. Again, of course, no subordinate would have dared to do such a thing. I described to him how, when according to his custom, he was the first down, he perceived a strange horse wandering over the moor, how he went out to it, and his astonishment at recognizing from the white forehead, which has given the favorite its name. That chance had put in his power the only horse which could beat the one upon which he had put his money. Then I described how his first impulse had been to lead them back to King's Pyland, and how the devil had shown him how he could hide the horse until the race was over, and how he had led it back and concealed it at Mapleton. When I told him every detail, he gave it up and thought only of saving his own skin. "But his stable has been searched." "Oh, an old horse faker like him has many a dodge." "But are you not afraid to leave the house in his power now, since he has every interest in injuring it?" "My dear fellow, he will guard it as the apple of his eye. He knows that his only hope of mercy is to produce it safe." Colonel Ross did not impress me as a man who would be likely to show much mercy in any case. The matter does not rest with Colonel Ross. I follow my own methods, and tell as much, or as little as I choose. That is the advantage of being unofficial. I don't know whether you deserved it, Watson, but the Colonel's manner has been just a trifle cavalier to me. I am inclined now to have a little amusement at his expense. Say nothing to him about the horse. Certainly not without your permission. And of course, this is all quite a minor point compared to the question of who killed John Straker. And you will devote yourself to that? On the contrary, we both go back to London by the night train. I was thunderstruck by my friend's words. We had only been a few hours in Devonshire, and that he should give up an investigation, which he had begun so brilliantly, was quite incomprehensible to me. Not a word more could I draw from him until we were back at the trainer's house. The colonel and the inspector were awaiting us in the parlor. My friend and I returned to town by the night express, said Holmes. We have a charming little breath of your beautiful more air. The inspector opened his eyes, and the colonel's lips curled in a sneer. So you despair of arresting the murderer of poor Stryker, said he. Holmes shrugged his shoulders. There were certainly grave difficulties in the way, said he. I have every hope, however, that your horse will start upon Tuesday, and I beg that you will have your jockey in readiness. May I ask for a photograph of Mr. John Stryker? The inspector took one from an envelope and handed it to him. My dear Gregory, you anticipated all my wants. If I might ask you to wait here for an instant, I have a question which I should like to put to the maid. I must say that I am rather disappointed in our London consultant, said Colonel Ross bluntly, as my friend left the room. I did not see that we are any further than when he came. At least you have his assurance that your horse will run, said I. Yes, I have his assurance, said the colonel, with a shrug of his shoulders. I should prefer to have the horse. I was about to make some reply in defense of my friend when he entered the room again. Now, gentlemen, said he, I am quite ready for Tavistock. As we stepped into the carriage, one of the stable lads led the door open for us. A sudden idea seemed to occur to Holmes, for he leaned forward and touched the lad upon the sleeve. You have a few sheep in the paddock, he said. Who attends to them? I do, sir. Have you noticed anything amiss with them of late? Well, sir, not of much account, but 3 of them have gone lame, sir. I could see that Holmes was extremely pleased, for he chuckled and rubbed his hands together. A long shot, Watson, a very long shot, said he, pinching my arm. Gregory, let me recommend to your attention the singular epidemic among the sheep. Drive on, coachman. Colonel Ross so wore an expression which showed the poor opinion which he had formed of my companion's abilities, but I saw by the inspector's face that his attention had been keenly aroused. You consider that to be important? He asked. Exceedingly so. Is there any point to which you would wish to draw my attention? To the curious incident of the dog in the nighttime. The dog did nothing in the nighttime. That was the curious incident, remarked Sherlock Holmes. 4 days later, Holmes and I were again in the train, bound for Winchester to see the race for the Wessex Cup. Colonel Ross met us by appointment outside the station, and we drove in his drag to the course beyond the town. His face was grave, and his manner was cold in the extreme. I have seen nothing of my horse, said he. I suppose that you would know him when you saw him? Asked Holmes. The colonel was very angry. I have been on the turf for 20 years and never was asked such a question as that before, said he. A child will know Silver Blaze, with his white forehead and his molten foreleg. How is the betting? Well, that is the curious part of it. You could have got 15 to 1 yesterday, but the price has become shorter and shorter until you can hardly get 3 to 1 now. Said Holmes. Somebody knows something, that is clear. As the drag drew up in the enclosure near the grandstand, I glanced at the card to see the entries. Mr. Health Newton's, the Negro red cap, a cinnamon jacket, a Colonel Warlaw's, Douglas pink cap, blue and black jacket, Lord Backwater, Jeshborough, yellow cap and sleeves, Colonel Ross, silver blaze, black cap, red jacket, the Duke of Balmore Iris, yellow and black stripes, Lord Singleford Rasper, purple cap and black sleeves. We stitch our other one and put all hopes on new words, said the Colonel. Why? What is that? Silverblade's favorite? 5-4 against Silverblades, roared the ring. 5-4 against Silverblades. 5-15 against Desborough. 5-4 on the field. There are the numbers up, I cried. There are all 6 there. All 6 there? Then my horse is running? Cried the Colonel in great agitation. But I don't see him. My colors have not passed. Only 5 have passed. This must be a lie. As I spoke, a powerful bay horse swept out from the weighing enclosure and cattered past us, bearing on its back the well-known black and red of the Colonel. That's not my horse, cried the owner. That beast has not a white hair upon its body. What is this that you've done, Mr. Holmes? Well, let us see how he gets on, said my friend imperturbably. For a few minutes, he gazed through my field glass. Capital, an excellent starter, he cried suddenly. There they are, coming round the curve. From our drag, we had a superb view as they come up the straight. The 6 horses were so close together that the carpet could have covered them, but halfway up the yellow of the Mapleton stable, showing to the front. Before they reached us, somehow, Desborough bolt was shot, and the Colonel's horse, coming away with a rush, passed the post a good 6 lifts before its rival, the Duke of Balmoral's Iris, making a bad third. It's my race anyhow, gasped the Colonel, passing his hand over his eyes. I confess that I can make neither head or tail of it. Don't you think that you have kept up your mystery long enough, Mr. Holmes? Certainly, Colonel. You shall know everything. Let us all go around and have a look at the horse together. There he is, he continued, as we made our way into the weighing enclosure, which only owners and their friends find mittens. You have only to wash his face and his leg in spirits of wine, and you will find that he is the same old silver blaze as ever. You take my breath away. I found him in the hands of a faker, and took the liberty of running him just as he was sent over. My dear sir, you have done wonders. The horse looks very fit and well. I never went better in its life. I owe you 1,000 apologies for having doubted your abilities. You done me a great service for recovering my horse. It would do me greatest still if you could lay your hands on the murder of John Stryker. I have done so, said Holmes quietly. The Colonel and I stared at him in amazement. You've got him? Where is he then? He is here. Where? Here? Where? In my company at the present moment. The Colonel flashed angrily. I quite reckon that I am under obligations to you, Mr. Holmes, said he, but I must regard what you have just said as either a very bad joke or an insult. Sherlock Holmes laughed. I assure you that I have not associated you with the crime, Colonel, said he. The real murderer is standing immediately behind you. He stepped past and laid his hand upon the glossy neck of the thoroughbred. "The horse?" cried both the colonel and myself. "Yes, the horse. And it may lessen his skill if I say that it was done in self-defense, and that John Stryker was a man who was entirely unworthy of your confidence. But there goes the bell, and as I stand to win a little on this next race, I shall defer a lengthy explanation until a more fitting time." We had the corner of a Pullman to ourselves that evening as we rode back to London, and I fancied that the journey was a short one to Colonel Ross, as well as to myself, as we listened to our companion's narrative of the events which has occurred at the Dormer training stables upon the Monday night, and the means by which he had unraveled them. I confess, said he, that any theories which I had formed from the newspaper reports were entirely, erroneous. And yet, there were indications there, had they not been overlaid by other details which concealed their true impact. I wanted to never share with a conviction that Fitzroy Simpson was the true culprit, although of course I saw that the evidence against him was by no means complete. It was while I was in the carriage, just as we reached the trainer's house, the immense significance of the motor occurred to me. You may remember that I was distrained and remained sitting after you had all alighted. I was marveling in my own mind how I could possibly have overlooked so obvious a clue. I confess to the colonel that even now I cannot see how it helps us. It was the first link in my chain of reasoning. Powdered opium is by no means tasteless. The flavor is not disagreeable, but it is perceptible. Where it mixed with any ordinary dish, the eater will undoubtedly detect it. Yes, and would probably eat no more. A curry was exactly the medium which would disguise this taste. By no possible superstition could the stranger, Fitzroy Simpson, have caused curry to be served in the trainer's family that night. And it is surely too monstrous coincidence to suppose that he had happened to come along with powdered opium upon the very night when a dish happened to be served, which would disguise the flavor. That is unthinkable. Therefore, Simpson becomes eliminated from the case, and our attention centers upon Stryker and his wife, the only two people who could have chosen curry mutton for supper that night. The opium was added after the dish was set aside for the stable boy, for the others had the same for supper with no ill effect. Which of them, then, had access to that dish without the maid seeing them? Before deciding that question, I had grasped the significance of the silence of the dog. But one true inference invariably suggests others. The Simpsons incident has shown me that a dog was kept in the stables, and yet though someone had been in and had fetched out a horse, he had not barked enough to arouse the two lads in the loft. Obviously, the midnight visitor was someone whom the dog knew well. I was already convinced, or almost convinced, that John Stryker went down to the stables in the dead of night and took out Silver Blaze. For what purpose? For a dishonest one, obviously. Or why would he drug his own stable boy? And yet, I was at a loss to know why. There have been cases before now where trainers had made sure a great sum of money by laying against their own horses through agents and then preventing them from winning by fraud. Sometimes it is a pulling jockey. Sometimes it is some surer and subtler means. But, what was it here? I hope that the contents of his pockets might help me to form a conclusion. And they did so. You cannot have forgotten the singular knife which was found in the dead man's hand, a knife which surely no sane man would choose for a weapon. It was, as Dr. Watson told us, a form of knife which is used for the most delicate operations known in surgery, and it was to be used for a delicate operation that night. You must know, with your wide experience of turf matters, Colonel Ross, that it is possible to make a slick nick upon the tendons of a horse hem, and to do it subcutaneously so as to leave absolutely no trace. A horse so treated would develop a slight lameness, which would be put down to a strain in the exercise or a touch of the rheumatism, but never to foul play. "A villain scoundrel!" cried the colonel. "We have here the explanation of why John Stryker wished to take the horse out onto the moor. So spirited a creature would have certainly roused the soundest of sleepers when it felt the prick of the knife. It was absolutely necessary to do it in the open air." "I have been blind," cried the colonel. Of course that was why he needed the candle and struck the match. Undoubtedly, but in examining his belongings, I was fortunate enough to discover not only the method of the crime, but even its motives. As a man of the world, Colonel, you know that men do not carry other people's bills about in their pockets. We have most of us quite enough to settle our own. I at once concluded that Stryker was leading a double life and keeping a second establishment. The nature of the bill showed that there was a lady in the case, and one who had expensive tastes. Liberal as you are with your servants, one can hardly expect that they can carry 20 guineas walking dresses for their ladies. I questioned Miss Stryker as to the dress without her knowing it, and having satisfied myself that it had never reached her, I made a note of the milliner address, and note that by calling there with Stryker's photograph, I could easily dispose of the mythical debaucher. From that time on, all was plain. Stryker had led out the horse to a hollow where his light would be invisible. Simpsons, in his flight, had dropped his cravat, and Stryker had picked it up with some idea, perhaps, that he might use it in securing the horse's leg. Once in the hollow, he had got behind the horse and had struck a light, but the creature, frightened at the sudden glare, and with the strange instincts of an animal feeling that some mischief was attended, had lashed out, and the steel shoe had struck Stryker full on the forehead. He had already, in spite of the rain, taken off his overcoat in order to do his delicate task, and so, as he fell, his knife gashed his thigh. Do I make it clear? Wonderful, cried the colonel, wonderful. Might have been there. My final shot was, I confess, a very long one. It struck me that so astute a man as Stryker would not undertake this delicate tendon nicking without a little practice. What could he practice on? My eyes fell upon the sheep, and I asked a question which, rather to my surprise, showed that Sir Mess was correct. Oh, so he was herding the sheep? No! Not those cute sheep. When I returned to London, I called upon the milliner, who had recognized Stryker as an excellent customer of the name Derbyshire, who had a very dashing wife with a strong particularity for expensive dresses. I have no doubt that this woman had plunged him over head and ears in debt, and so led him into this miserable plot. You have explained all but one thing, cried the colonel. Where was the horse? Ah, it bolted. It was cared for by one of your neighbors. You must have a nicety in that direction, I think. This is Clapham jurisdiction, if I am not mistaken, and we shall be in Victoria in less than 10 minutes. If you care to smoke a cigar in our rooms, Colonel, I shall be happy to give you any details which might interest you. Alright, and that's the end of that one. But that was fucked up. Oh my god. Killed by a horse, that's one way to go. You know, I should probably have a button or something. Like something paired of the screen. Because like, for when I'm, it's for myself, for when I upload these chapters. So when I do the contents of what time we do the stories. Because having to re-listen to all of this, like, it takes a bit. Yeah, that is true. Because I did notice when I do the markers, it doesn't show up on, I don't see it in the chat. And it's not showing me on, the dashboard I have in my OBS. So, yeah. I could probably figure, that's probably something I'll have to figure out later. I think I'll probably have a little thing that will pop up. And then go away, maybe. I don't know. I have to probably figure it out or something. Okay, so the next story we're going to be reading is The Yellow Face. Wait, what? Okay. In publishing these short sketches based upon the numerous cases in which my companions' singular gifts had made us the listeners to, and eventually the actors in, some strange drama, it is only natural that I should dwell rather upon his successes than upon his failures. And this, not so much for the sake of his, reputations, for indeed it was when he was at his wit's end that his energy and his, versatility were most admirable, but because where he failed, it happened too often that no one else succeeded, and that the tale was left forever without a conclusion. Now and again, however, it chanced that even when he erred, the truth was still discovered. I have noted of some half-dozen cases of the kind of which the of the Musgrave ritual, and that which I am about to recount are the two which present the strongest features of interest. Sherlock Holmes was a man who seldom took exercise for exercise's sake. Few men were capable of greater muscular effort, and he was undoubtedly one of the finest boxers of his weight that I have ever seen. But he looked upon his aimless body exertions as a waste of energy, and he seldom bestirred himself save when there was some professional object to be served. I didn't know he was a boxer. Then he was absolutely untiring and indefatigable. That he should have kept himself in training under such circumstances is remarkable, but his diet was usually of the sparest, and his habits were simple to the verge of austerity. Save for the occasional use of cocaine, he had no vice, and he only turned to the drug as a protest against the matrimony of existence. When cases were scatty and the papers uninteresting, I don't know what they mean by it. I'm about to look the words up. Okay. So, matrimony means lack of variety and interest, which that makes a lot of sense. The wage just reads like he lacks caring and everything else but cases. And his drugs. And this word is... And austerity is sternness of severe manner or attitude. Plainness, sternness, strictness. In other words, he lacks interest in a lot of things. That's what I'm getting from this paragraph. So he rarely exercised for the sake of exercising. He probably does it when it has something of interest for him, which is probably rarely. His diet probably isn't the best. And then his habits were plain, I guess is what they're describing. I guess we could say it's like Homer, I guess. One day in the early spring, he had so far relaxed as to go for a walk with me in the park, where the first faint shoots of green were breaking out upon the elms, and the stickly spearheads of the chestnuts were just beginning to burst into their five-fold leaves. For 2 hours we rambled about together in silence for the most part, as befits two men who know each other intimately. It was nearly 5 before we were back in Baker Street once more. "A big pardon, sir," said our page boy as he opened the door. "There's been a gentleman here asking for you, sir." Holmes glanced reproachfully at me. "So much for afternoon walks," said he. "Has this gentleman gone then?" "Yes, sir." "Didn't you ask him in?" "Yes, sir, he came in." "How long did he wait?" "Half an hour, sir." "He was a very restless gentleman, sir. A walk-in and a stamp-in all the time he were here. I was waiting outside the door, sir, and I could hear him. At least he outs into the passage and he cries, 'Is that man never going to come?' Those were his very words, sir. 'You'll only need to wait a little longer,' say I. 'Then I'll wait in the open air, for I feel half choked,' says he. 'I'll be back before long.' And with that, he ups and he outs, and all I could say wouldn't hold him back." Well, you did your best," said Holmes, as we walked into our room. "It's very annoying, though, Watson. I was badly in need of a case, and this looks from this man's patience as if it were of importance. Hello, that's not your pipe on the table." He must have left his behind him. A nice old ricer with a good long stem of what the tobacconists call amber. I wonder how many real amber mouthpieces there are in London. Some people think that a fly in it is a sign. Well, he must have been disturbed in his mind to leave his pipe behind him, which he evidently values highly. "How do you know that he values it highly?" I asked. "Well, I should put the original cost of the pipe at 7 and 16 pence. Now, it has, you see, been twice mended. Once in the wooden stem and once in the amber. Each of these mends done, as you observe, with silver bands. It have cost more than the pipe did originally. The man must value the pipe highly when he prefers to patch it up rather than buy a new one with the same money." "Anything else?" I asked, for Holmes was turning the pipe about in his hand and staring at it in his particular pensive way. He held it up with a taper on it with his long, thin forefinger, as a professor might who was lecturing on a bone. "Pipes are occasionally of extraordinary interest," said he. "Nothing has more evidently safe, perhaps, watches and bootlaces. The indications here, however, are neither very marked nor very important. The owner is obviously a muscular man, left-handed, with an excellent set of teeth, careless in his habits, and with no need to practice economy." The fact that he could get all of that from just looking at a pipe is amazing. My friend threw out the information in a very offhanded way, but I saw that he cocked his eyes at me to see if I had followed his reasoning. "You think a man must be well-to-do if he smokes a 7-shilling pipe?" said I. "This is a gross venom mixture of 8 pence an ounce," Holmes answered, knocking a little out on his palm. "As he might get an excellent smoke for half the price, he has no need for practice economy. And the other points? He has been in the habit of lighting his pipe at lamps and gas jets. You can see that it is quite charred all down one side. Of course, a match could not have done that. Why should a man hold a match to the side of his pipe? But you cannot light it at a lamp without getting the bowl charred. And it is all on the right side of the pipe. From that, I gather that he is a left-handed man. You hold your own pipe to the lamp and see how naturally you, being right-handed, hold the left side to the flame. You might do it once the other way, but not as consensus. but not as a constancy. This has always been held so. Then he is bitten through his amber. It takes a muscular, energetic fellow and one with a good set of teeth to do that. Oh, that's interesting. But if I am mistaken, I hear him upon the stairs, so we shall have something more interesting than his pipe to study. As later, our door opened, and a tall young man entered the room. He was well, but quietly dressed in a dark gray suit, and carried a brown, wide awake in his hand. What? Hello. And later, our door opened, and a tall young man entered the door. He was well, but quietly dressed in a dark gray suit, and carried a brown wide awake in his hand. That does not make sense. What is he carrying in his hand? Whatever. I should have put him at about 30, although he was really some years older. I beg your pardon, said he, with some embarrassment. I suppose I should have knocked? Yes, I should have knocked. The fact is that I am a little upset. He was put it all down to that. He passed his hand over his forehead like a man who is half dazed, and then sat down upon a chair. I can see that you have not slept for a night or two, said Holmes, in his easy, general way. That tries a man's nerves more than work, and more even than pleasure. May I ask how I can help you? I wanted your advice, sir. I don't know what to do, and my whole life seems to have gone to pieces. You wish to employ me as a consulting detective? Not that only. I want your opinion as a judicious man, as a man of the world. I want you to know what I ought to do next. I hope to God you'll be able to tell me. He spoke in a little sharp, jerky outburst, and it seemed to me that to speak at all was very painful to him. And what his will all through was overriding his inclinations. It's a very delicate thing, said he. One does not like to speak of one's domestic affairs to strangers. It seems dreadful to discuss the conduct of one's wife with two men whom I have never seen before. It's horrible to have to do it, but I've got the end of my tether and I must have advice. My dear, my grand Monroe, began Holmes. Our visitor sprung from his chair. Wait, what? He cried. You know my name? If you wish to preserve your incognito, said Holmes, smiling, I would suggest that you cease to write your name upon the lining of your hat, or else that you turn the crown towards the person whom you are addressing. I was able to say that my friend and I have listened to a good many strange secrets in this room, and that we have had the good fortune to bring peace to many troubled souls. I trust that we may do as much for you. Might I beg you, as time may prove to be important, to furnish me with the facts of the case without further delay? Our visitor again passed his hand over his forehead, as if he found it bitterly hard. From every gesture and expression, I could see that he was a reserved, self-contained man, with a dash of pride in his nature, more likely to hide his wounds than to expose them. Then suddenly, with a fierce gesture of his closed hand, like one who throws reserve to the winds, he began. The facts are these, Mr. Holmes, said I. I am a married man and have been so for 3 years. During that time, my wife and I have loved each other as fondly and lived happily as any two that ever were joined. We have not had a difference, not one, in thought or word or deed. And now, since last Monday, there has suddenly sprung up a barrier between us, and I find that there is something in her life, in her thought of which I know as little as if she were the woman who brushes by me in the street. We are estranged, and I want to know why. Now, there is one thing I want to impress upon you before I go any further, Mr. Holmes. Effie loves me. Don't let there be any mistake about that. She loves me with her whole heart and soul, and never more than now. I know it. I feel it. I don't want to argue about that. A man can tell easily enough when a woman loves him. But there's this secret between us, and we can never be the same until it's cleared. Kindly let me have the facts, Mr. Monroe, said Holmes, with some impatience. I'll tell you what I know about Iffy's history. She was a widow when I met her first, though quite young, only 25. Her name then was Miss Hebron. She went out to America when she was young, and lived in the town of Atlanta, where she married this Hebron, who was a lawyer with good practice. They had one child, but the yellow fever broke out badly in the place, and both husband and child died of it. Oh, that's so sad. I have seen his death certificate. This sickened her of America, and she came back to live with a maid Pinner in Middlesex. I may mention that her husband had left her comfortably off, and that she had a capital of about £4,500, which had been so well invested by him that it returned an average of 7%. She had only been 6 months at Pinner when I met her. We fell in love with each other, and we married a few weeks afterwards. Wait, you get married after, what, dating the person for like 4 weeks? That's like super fast. I am a hop merchant myself, and I have an income of $700 or $800. We found ourselves comfortably off, and took a nice £80 a year villa at Norbury. Our little place was very countrified, considering that it is so close to the town. We had an inn and 2 houses a little above us, and a single cottage at the other side of the field which faces us. And expect those were no houses until you got halfway to the station. My business took me into town at certain seasons, but in summer I had less to do than in our country home. My wife and I were just happy. We're just as happy as could be wished. I tell you that there never was a shadow between us until this accursed affair began. There's one thing I ought to tell you before I go further. When we married, my wife made over all her property to me, rather against my will, for I saw how awkward it would be if my business affairs went wrong. However, she would have it so, and it was done. Well, about 6 weeks ago, she came to me. Jack, said she, when you took my money, you said that if I ever wanted any, I was asked for it. Certainly, said I. It's all your own. Well, said she, I want £100. I was a bit staggered at this, for I had imagined it was simply a new dress or something of the kind that she was after. 104, I asked. Oh, said she, in her playful way. You said that you were only my banker, and bankers never ask questions, you know. If you really mean it, of course you shall have the money, said I. Oh, yes, I really mean it. And you won't tell me what you want it for? Some days perhaps, but not just at present, Jack. So I had to be content with that, though it was the first time that there had ever been any secrets between us. I gave her a check, and I never thought any more of the matter. It may have nothing to do with what came after, but I thought it only right to mention it. Well, I told you just now that there is a cottage not far from our house. There is just a field between us, but to reach it you have to go along the road and then turn down a lane. Just behind it is a nice little grove of Scottish fairs, and I used to be very fond of strolling down there, where trees are always a neighborly kind of thing. The cottage had been standing empty this 8 months, and it was a pity, for it was a pretty 2-story place, with an old-fashioned porch and honeysuckle about it. I have stood many a times and thought what a neat little homestead it would make. But last Monday evening, I was taking a stroll down that way when I met an empty van coming up the lane and saw a pile of carpets and things lying about on the grass plot beside the porch. It was clear that the cottage had at last been let. I walked past it and wondered what sort of folk there were who had come to live so near us. And as I looked, I suddenly became aware that a face was watching me out of one of the upper windows. I don't know what there was about that face, Mr. Holmes, but it seemed to send a chill right down my back. It was some little way off, so that I could not make out the features, but there was something unnatural and inhumane about the face. That was the impression that I had, and I moved quickly towards to get a nearer view of the person who was watching me. But as I did so, the face suddenly disappeared, so suddenly that it seemed to have been plucked away into the darkness of the room. I spent 5 minutes thinking the business over and trying to analyze my impressions. I could not tell if the face were that of a man or a woman. I had been too far from me for that, but its color was what had impressed me most. It was a vivid chalky white, with something sad and rigid about it, which was shockingly unnatural. So disturbed was I that I determined to see a little more of the new inmates of the cottage. I approached and knocked the door, which was instantly opened by a tall, gruff woman with a harsh, forbidding face. "What may you be wanting?" she asked in a northern accent. "I am your neighbor over yonder," said I, nodding towards my house. "I see that you have only just moved in, so I thought that if I could be any help to you, if any." Well, to ask you when we want you," said she, and shut the door in my face. Annoyed as a clifford rebuff, I turned my back and walked home. Oh, even though I tried to think of other things, my mind would still turn to the creation of the window and the rudeness of the woman. I determined to say nothing about the former to my wife, for she is a nervous, highly strung woman. Oh yeah, she sounds very pleasant. And I had no wish that she would share the unpleasant impression which had been produced upon myself. I remarked to her, however, before I fell asleep, that the cottage was now occupied, to which she returned no reply. I am usually an extremely sound sleeper. It has been a standing jest in the family that nothing could ever wake me during the night, and yet somehow on that particular night, whether it may have been the slight excitement produced by my little adventure, or not, I know not, but I slept much more lightly than usual. Half in my dreams, I was dimly conscious that something was going on in the room, and gradually became aware that my wife had dressed herself and was slipping on her mantle and her bonnet. My lips were parted to murmur out some sleepy words of surprise, or a rentrance of this untelling preparation, when suddenly my half-open eyes fell upon her face, illuminated by the candlelight, and astonishment held me dumb. She wore an expression such as I had never seen before, such as I should have thought her incapable of assuming. She was deadly pale and breathing fast, glancing furiously towards the bed as she fastened her mantle to see if she had disturbed me. Then, thinking that I was still asleep, she slipped noisily from the room. And an instant later, I heard a sharp creaking which could only come from the hinges of the front door. I sat up in bed and rapped my knuckles against the rail to make certain that I was truly awake. Then I took my watch from under the pillow, and it was 3 in the morning. What on earth could my wife be doing out on the country road at 3 in the morning? I had sat for about 20 minutes turning the thing over in my mind and trying to find some possible explanation. Explanation. The more I thought, the more extraordinary and inexplicable did it appear. I was still puzzled over it when I heard the door gently close again, and her footsteps came up the stairs. "Where in the world have you been, Effie?" I asked as she entered. She gave a violent start and a kind of gasping cry when I spoke, and that cry and start troubled me more than all the rest. But there was something indescribably guilty about them. My wife had always been a woman of a frank, open nature, and it gave me a chill to see her slinking into her own room and crying out and wincing when her own husband spoke to her. "You're awake, Jack," she cried with a nervous laugh. I thought that nothing could awake you." "Where have you been?" I asked more sternly. "I don't wonder that you are surprised," said she, and I could see that her fingers were trembling as she undone the fastening of her mantle. I never remember having done such a thing in my life before. The fact is that I felt as though I were choking. I had a perfect longing for a breath of fresh air. I really think I should have fainted if I had not gone out. I stood at the door for a few minutes, and now I am quite myself again." All this time that she was telling me the story, she never once looked in my direction, and her voice was quite unlike her usual tone. It was evident to me that she was saying what was false. I said nothing in reply, but turned my face to the wall, sick at heart, with my mind filled with 1,000 feminist thoughts and suspicions. What was it that my wife was concealing from me? Where had she been during that strange expedition? I felt that I should have no peace until I knew, and yet I shrank from asking her again after once she had told me what was false. All the rest of the night, I tossed and trembled, framing theories after theories, each more unlikely than the last. I should have gone to the city that day, but I was too disturbed in my mind to be able to pay attention to business matters. My wife seemed to be as upset as myself, and I could see from the little questioning glances which she kept shooting at me that she understood that I disbelieved her statement, and that she was at her wit's end what to do. We hardly exchanged a word during breakfast, and immediately afterwards I went out for a walk that I might think the matter out in fresh morning air. I went as far as the Crystal Palace. Spent an hour in the grounds and was back in Norbury by 1 o'clock. It happened that my way took me past the cottage. I stopped for an instant to look at the window to see if I could catch a glimpse of the strange face which had looked out at me the day before. As I stood there, imagine my surprise, Mr. Holmes, when the door suddenly opened and my wife walked out. What? was struck dumb with an astonishment at the sight of her, but my emotions were nothing to those which showed themselves upon her face when our eyes met. She seemed for an instant to wish to shrink back inside the house again, and then, seeing how useless all the concealment might be, she came forward with a very white face and frightened eyes, which belied the smile upon her lips. "Ah, Jack," said she, "I've just been in to see if I can be of any assistance to our new neighbors." "Why do you look at me like that, Jack? You are not angry with me." "So," said I, "this is where you went during the night." "Oh, what do you mean?" she cried. "You came here, I'm sure of it. Who are these people, that you should visit them at such an hour?" "I have not been here before." "How can you tell me what you know is false?" I cried. "Your very voice changed as you speak. When I have ever had a secret from you, I shall enter that cottage, and I shall probe the matter to the bottom." No, Jack, for God's sake," she gasped in uncontrollable emotion. Then as I approached the door, she seized my arm and pulled me back with exhaustive strength. "I implore you not to do that, Jack," she cried. "I swear that I will tell you everything someday, but nothing but misery can come of it if you enter that cottage." Then as I tried to shake her off, she clung to me in a frenzy of entreaty. "Trust me, Jack," she cried. "Trust me only this once. You will never have cause to regret it. You know that I would not have a secret from you if were not for your own sake. Our whole lives are at stake in this. If you come home with me, all will be well. If you force your way into that cottage, all is over between us." There was such earnestness, such despair in her manner that her words arrested me, and I stood irresolute before the door. "I will trust you on one condition, and one condition only," said I at last. "It is that this mystery comes to an end from now. You are liberally to preserve your secret, but you must promise me that there shall be no more nightly visits, no more doing, which are kept from my knowledge. I am willing to forget those which are past, if you will promise that there shall be no more in the future." "I was sure that you would trust me," she cried, with a great sigh of relief. It shall just be just as you wish. Come away, up to the house." Still pulling at my sleeve, she led me away from the cottage. As we went, I glanced back, and there was that yellow, livid face watching us out of the upper window. What link could there be between that creature and my wife? Or how could the coarse-rough woman whom I had seen the day before be connected with her? It was a strange puzzle, and yet I knew that my mind could never know ease again until I have solved it. For 2 days after this, I stayed at home, and my wife appeared to abide loyally by our engagement, for as far as I knew, she never stirred out of the house. On the third day, however, I had ample evidence that her solemn promise was not enough to hold her back from this secret influence which drew her away from her husband and her duty. I had gone into town on that day, but I returned by 2:40 instead of 3:36, which is my usual train. As I entered the house, the maid ran into the hall with a startled face. "Where is your mistress?" I asked. "I think that she has gone out for a walk," she answered. My mind was instantly filled with suspicion. I rushed upstairs to make sure that she was not in the house, and I did so. I happened to glance out of one of the upper windows and saw the maid with whom I had just been speaking running across the field in the direction of the cottage. Then, of course, I saw exactly what it all meant. My wife had gone over there and had asked the servant to call her if I should return. Tinged with anger, I rushed down and hurried across, determined to end the matter once and forever. I saw my wife and the maid hurry back along the lane, but I did not stop to speak with them. In the cottage lay the secret which was casting a shadow over my life. I vowed that, come what might, it would be a secret no longer. I did not even knock when I reached it, but I turned the handle and rushed into the passage. God damn it. This is getting worse and worse by the second. It was all still quiet upon the ground floor. In the kitchen, a kettle was singing on the fire, and a large black cat lay coiled in the basket, but there was no sign of the woman who I have seen before. I ran into the other room, but it was equally deserted. Then I rushed up the stairs, only to find 2 other rooms empty and deserted at the top. There was no one at all in the whole house. The furniture and pictures were of the most common and vulgar descriptions, save in the one chamber of the window which I had seen the strange face. That was comfortable and elegant, and all my suspicions rose into a fierce, bitter flame when I saw on the mantelpiece stood a copy of a full-length photograph of my wife, which had been taken at my request only 3 months ago. I sang long enough to make certain that the house was absolutely empty. Then I left it, feeling a weight at my heart, such as I had never had before. My wife came out into the hall as I entered my house. But I was too hurt and angry to speak with her, and pushing past her, I made my way into my study. She followed me, however, before I could close the door. "I am sorry that I broke my promise, Jack," said she, "but if you knew all the circumstances, I am sure that you would forgive me." "Tell me everything then," I said. "I cannot, Jack, I cannot," she cried. "Until you tell me who it is that has been living in that cottage and who it is whom you have given that photograph, there can never be any confidence between us," said I, and breaking away from her, I left the house. That was yesterday, Mr. Holmes. I have not seen her since, nor do I know anything more about this strange business. It is the first shadow that has come between us, and it has so shaken me that I do not know what I should do for the best. Suddenly this morning, it occurred to me that you were the man to advise me. So I have hurried to you now, and I place myself unreservedly in your hands. If there is any point which I have not made clear, pray question me about it. But above all, tell me quickly what I am to do, for this misery is more than I can bear. Holmes and I listened with the utmost interest to this extraordinary statement, which had been delivered in the jerky, broken fashion of a man who was under the influence of extreme emotions. My companion sat silent for some time, with his chin upon his hands, lost in thought. "Tell me," said he at last, "could you swear that this was a man's face which you saw at the window?" "Patient that I saw it, it was some distance away from it, so that it was impossible for me to say." "You appear to have been disagreeably impressed by it?" "It seemed to be of an unnatural color and to have a strange rigidity about the features. When I approached, it vanished with a jerk." "How long is it since your wife asked you for £100? "Nearly 2 months." "Have you ever seen a photograph of her first husband?" "No. There was a great fire at Atlanta very shortly after his death, and all her papers were destroyed. And yet she had a certificate of death. You say that you saw it?" "Yes, she got a duplicate after the fire." "Did you ever meet anyone who knew her in America?" "No." "Did she ever talk of revisiting the place?" "No." "Or get letters from it?" "No." "Thank you. I should like to think over the matter a little now. If the cottage is now permanently deserted, we may have some difficulties. If, on the other hand, as I fancy is more likely, the inmates were warned of your coming and left before you entered yesterday, then they may be back now, and we should clear it all up easily. Let me advise you, then, to return to Newbury and to examine the windows of the cottage again. If you have reason to believe that it is inhabited, do not force your way in, but send a wire to my friend and me. We shall be with you within the hour of receiving it, and we shall then very soon get to the bottom of the business. And if it is still empty, in that case, I shall come tomorrow and talk it over with you. Goodbye, and above all, do not fret until you know that you really have a cause for it. I am afraid that this is a bad business, Watson, said my companion as he returned after accompanying Mr. Monroe to the door. What do you make of it? It had an ugly sound, I answered. Yes, there's blackmail in it, or I am much mistaken. And who is the blackmailer? Well, it must be the creature who lives in the only comfortable room in the place and has her photograph above the fireplace. Upon my word, Watson, there was something very attractive about that vivid face at the window, and I would not have missed the case for the worlds. You have a theory? Yes, a provisional one, but I shall be surprised if it does not turn out to be correct. This woman's first husband is in that cottage. Of course. I would be surprised if it actually is the husband. Why do you think so? How else can you explain her for the anxiety that her second one should not enter it? The facts as I read them are something like this. This woman was married in America. Her husband developed some hateful qualities, or shall we say that he contracted some loathsome disease and became a leper or an imbecile. She flies from him at last, returns to England, changes her name, and starts her life, and she thinks afresh. She has been married 3 years and believes that her position is quite secure. Having shown her husband the death certificate of the same man whose name she had assumed, when suddenly her whereabouts is discovered by her first husband, or we may suppose by some unconspicuous woman who has attached herself to the invalid. They write to the wife and threaten to come and expose her. She asks for £100, endeavors to buy them off. They come in spite of it, and when the husband mentions casually to the wife that there are newcomers in the cottage, she knows in some way that they are her pursuers. She waits until her husband is asleep, then rushes down to endeavor to persuade them to leave her in peace. Having no success, she goes again next morning, and her husband meets her. As she has told us, she comes out. She promises him then not to go there again, but 2 days afterwards, the hope of getting rid of those dreadful neighbors was too strong for her, and she made another attempt, taking down with her the photograph, which had probably been demanded from her. In the midst of this interview, the maid rushed in to say that the master had come home, on which the wife, knowing that he would come straight down to the cottage, hurried the inmates out of the back door, into the grove of fair trees, probably which was mentioned as standing near. In this way, he found the place deserted. I should be very much surprised, however, if it's still so, when he trees in the evening. What do you think of my theory? It is all surmise, but at least it covers all the facts. When new facts come to our knowledge, which cannot be covered by it, it will be some time to reconsider it. Oh wait, hold on. It will be enough time to reconsider it. We can do nothing more until we have a message from our friend at Norbury. But we had not a very long time to wait for that. It just came as we had finished our tea. Damn, that was fast. The cottage is still tenanted, it said. I have seen the face again at the window. We will meet the 7 o'clock train, and we'll take no steps until you arrive. He was waiting on the platform when we stepped out, and we could see in the light of the station lamps that he was very pale and quivering with agitation. "You're still there, Mr. Holmes." And he's laying hard upon my friend's sleeve. "I saw lights in the cottage as I came down. We shall settle now once for all." "What is your plan then?" asked Holmes as he walked down the dark tree-lined road. "I'm going to force my way in and see myself who is in the house. I wish you both to be there as witness." "You are quite determined to do this, in spite of your wife's warning. That is better than you should not solve the mystery." "Yes, I am determined." "Well, I think that you are in the right. Any truth is better than indefinite doubt. We had better go up at once. Of course, legally, we are putting ourselves hopelessly in the wrong, but I think that it is worth it." It was a very dark night, and a train ride began to fall as we turned from high road into a narrow lane deeply rutted with hedges on either side. My great Myrtle pushed impatiently forward, however, and we stumbled after him as best we could. "Here are the lights of my house," he murmured, pointing to a glimmer among the trees. "And there is the cottage which I am going to enter." We turned a corner in the lane as he spoke, and there was the building close beside us. A yellow bar falling across the black foreground showed that the house was not quite closed, and one window in the upper story was brightly illuminated. As we looked, we saw a dark blur moving across the blind. "There is that creature," cried Grant Myrtle. "You can see for yourself that someone is there." "Now follow me and shall soon know all." We approached the door, but suddenly a woman appeared out of the shadow and stood in the golden track of a lamplight. I could not see her face in the darkness, but arms were thrown out in an attitude of entreaty. "For God's sakes, don't Jack," she cried. "I had presentiment that you would come this evening. Think better of it, dear. Trust me again, and you will never have ceased to regret it." "I have trusted you too long, Effie," he cried sternly. Leave go of me. I must pass you. My friends and I are going to settle this matter once and for all." Pushed her aside, and we followed closely after him. "Oh, dear." He pushed her to one side and we followed closely after him. As he threw the door open, an old woman ran out in front of him and tried to bar his passage. But he thrust her back, and an instant forward, we were all upon the stairs. Grand Monroe rushed into the lighted room at the top, and we entered at his heels. It was a cozy, well-furnished apartment, with 2 candles burning upon the table, and 2 upon the mantelpiece. In the corner, stooping over a desk, there sat what appeared to be a little girl. Her face was turned away as we entered, but we could see that she was dressed in a red frock, and that she had long white gloves on. As she whispered around to us, he would cry in surprise and horror. The face which turned towards us was the strangest livid tint, and the features were absolutely devoid of any expression. An instant later, the mystery was explained. Holmes with a laugh passed his hand behind the child's ear, and Max peeling off from her countenance, as there was a little chalk-black negress with all her white teeth flashing in amusement at our amazed faces. I burst out laughing out of sympathy with her merriment, but Grant Monroe stood staring with his head clenching his throat. My God, he cried. What could be the meaning of this? I will tell you the meaning of it, cried the lady, sweeping into the room with a proud, sad face. You have forced me against my own judgment to tell you, and now we must both make the best of it. My husband died at Atlanta. My child survived. Your child? She drew a large silver locket from her bosom. You have never seen this open. I understood that it did not open. She touched a spring, and the front hinge fringed back. There was a portrait within of a man strikingly handsome and intelligent-looking, but bearing an unmistakable signs upon his features of this African descent. That is John Hebron of Atlanta, said the lady. A nobler man never walked the earth. I cut myself off from my race in order to wed him, but never once while he lived did I for an instant regret it. It was our misfortune that our only child took after his people rather than mine. It is often so in such matches, and little Lucy is darker far than ever her father was. But dark or fair, she is my only dear little girl and her mother's pet. The little creature ran across at the words and nestled up against the lady's dress. When I left her in America, she continued, it was only because her health was weak, and the change might have done her harm. She was given to the care of a faithful Scottish woman who had once been our servant. Never for an instant did I dream of disowning her as my child, but when chance threw you in my way, Jack, and I learned to love you, I feared to tell you about my child. God forgive me, I feared that I should lose you, and I had not the courage to tell you. I had to choose between you, and in my weakness, I turned away from my own little girl. For 3 years, I have kept her existence a secret from you. But I heard from the nurse, and I knew that all was well with her. At least, however, there came an overwhelming desire to see the child once more. I struggled against it, but in vain. Though I knew the danger, I determined to have the child over, if it were but for a few weeks. I sent £100 to the nurse, and gave her instructions about this cottage, so that she might come as a neighbor, without my appearing to be in any way connected with her. I pushed my precautions so far as to order her to keep the child in the house during the daytime, and to cover up her little face and hands so that even though who might see her at the window should not gossip about there being a black child in the neighborhood. If I had been less cautious, I might have been more wise, but I was half crazy with fear that you should learn the truth. It was you who told me first that the cottage was occupied. I should have waited for the morning, but I could not sleep for excitement. And so at last, I slipped out, knowing how difficult it is to awake you. But you saw me go, and that was the beginning of my troubles. Next day, you had my secret at your mercy, but you nobly refrained from pursuing your advantage. 3 days later, however, the nurse and the child only just escaped from the back door as you rushed in at the front one. And now tonight, at last know all, and I ask you, what is it to become of us, my child and me? She clasped her hands and waited for an answer. It was a long 10 minutes before Grant Monroe broke the silence, and when he answered, it came with one doubt which I love to think. He lifted the little child, kissed her, and then, still carrying her, he held his other hand out to his wife and turned towards the door. We can talk it over more comfortably at home, said he. I am not a very good man, Eddie, but I think that I am a better one than you have given me credit for being. Holmes and I followed them down the lane, and my friend plucked at my sleeves as we came out. I think, said he, that we shall be of more use in London than in Norbury. Not another word did he say of the case until late that night, when he was turning away with his lighted candle for his bedroom. Watson, said he, If it should ever strike you that I am getting a little overconfident in my powers, or giving less pains to a case than it deserves, kindly whisper Norbury in my ear, and I shall be infinitely obliged to you. Alright, and that is the end of that one. And I think that is where we're gonna end for today. We'll continue the next two next week. Cause I guess they seem a little long compared to the other short stories. Okay, let me open up Twitch. I don't really know who's on. Is anyone on? Let's see here. Well, if I can't find anyone new, then I'm just sending you guys over to Darn. He was playing Goose Goose Duck. Let me see. Is he still playing? Yep, he is still playing. So I'll send over you to guys to him. Yo. Let me type in his name real quick. Alrighty, everyone. Thank you for joining the stream today. I will hopefully see everyone on Saturday. I will attempt to do some writing that day and maybe some gaming. I haven't really decided. I'll probably do some writing. Until then, I will see everyone then. Bye.